Well, anybody that's in California knows that convertibles and everything from hot rods to factory sleds to sports cars rule out here. The weather is very conducive to these types of cars, and you'll notice here that most of these cars are convertibles, and there's good reason for it. This is the Muckenthaller Automobile Festival, I believe they call it, and the Jaguar Club, Los Angeles Jaguar Club, has been invited over the last few years to come and put on their own auto show or Concours at the same time, and that's what's going on. I understand there's 60 Jags from the club here today, in addition to all the cars that the Muckenthaller has rounded up for their show. Oh, geez, I've always loved cars my whole life. My father had a Porsche, which I still own. It's just a whole series of sports cars, and I've always been around them, and I love them. And this is a 1974 E-Type Series 3 OTS, which stands for Open Two-Seater. I've owned it since 1979. Currently has about 27,000 miles on it. It's purely a show car. I had it in storage for the first probably 20 years that I owned it, and then I pulled it out and started restoring it. It's been in the condition it's in now for the last 7-8 years. The XKE particularly was a very unique car. At the time it came out, it took the world by storm, and it's continued to stand out and be very much a special car in the car collector industry. And the engines ranged everywhere from 6 cylinders to this one, which happens to be a V12. Somewhere around 285 horsepower. And the car weighs about 3,400 pounds, so it's not the biggest rocket sled in the world, but it's lots of fun. It's got plenty of horsepower, and although it's 1974 technology, it rides a little hard, and it's a little hard to shift, but that's what comes with this particular model. It's pretty much the way they all were. They came pretty standard. This still has the original 8-track radio in it, and it has 4-speed transmission. Some of them were automatic. For the Series 3, they stretched the chassis to put the V12 engine in it, and at the same time they had to put power steering on it because it became very difficult to manhandle, especially for the ladies. It has air conditioning. So at this point in Jaguar's career, they were trying to compete with Mercedes and probably the 450 SL or whatever it was that was out at that time. Well, I won first in class. Now that's not saying a lot because there was only one car in my class today, but it scored 99.99. A 100-point car is pretty well unheard of, so I'm very, very pleased with that score. You don't get any better than that.
This is a 1912 Rio, 5-passenger touring. It was the final car that Ransom E. Olds designed. He started Rio in 1905 after he left Oldsmobile, which he started in 1897. This is a F-head overhead valve, 4-cylinder, 265 cubic inches with 35 horsepower, cruising speed of 45 miles an hour. It's the original paper mache over wood body, only maybe about 5 or 6 left in existence. We drive this vehicle all over the place. We average about 12 to 1,400 miles a year. We drive it and enjoy it, and the people you meet and get to show and enjoy the car with them really is a lot of fun. Everybody has their obsessions, and this is a pretty healthy one. My wife always knows if I'm not home, if I'm not in the house, I'm out in the garage if I'm home. Oh, it's beautiful. A lot of these old cars are difficult to drive. Rio's Ransom E. Olds was cognizant of how much work it was to drive these old cars. And this car shifts beautiful, handles beautiful. It's almost like driving a 30s car. And that's a lot to be said for something that was built in 1912.
That's Muckenthaller Cultural Center. They have made this the car weekend. Yesterday was a lot of old vintage race cars, famous race cars, and today's the Concours with cars that are a little shinier usually and with some historical value. This is a 1911 Hudson Speedster, Type 33. Oh, I saw it coming home on the way from work and just had to have it. Just kind of fired my imagination when I saw it. So it has a fairly documented history. It's been in several configurations during its lifetime. During World War II, it was actually a pickup truck. But I bought it literally out of a museum in Indiana. And when I bought the car, it was basically completely painted in Rust-Oleum gray primer. So a lot of cleanup, a lot of brass polishing, cleaning up the engine, redoing the woodwork, redoing the wheels, new tires, rims, basically getting it into sound running condition, making sure it had all the right lubricants in it, making sure it was safe, and I wasn't going to do any damage by driving it. You think you're doing 60, 70 miles an hour, and people pacing you say, well, you're really doing about 40. But being wide open, wind in the face, a trip back in time, driving a car with no suspension, no shock absorbers, no rearview mirrors. It's motoring history. People treat you wonderful when you bring something like this out. I think they appreciate this was motoring in the beginning. It's fun to take it out and see people's reaction to it, the questions they ask, and you can almost see them thinking back what it'd be like when these cars were new and what a jaunt to the store would be. We don't just get in, turn the key, and go. There's a whole process involved to taking the car out. I never really feel myself being the owner of this car. I'm mainly its caretaker. I firmly believe that this car is going to be around 100 years from today. And so that anything I do, I want to make sure that 100 years from now it's fitting with what the car should be, and keep the car up, keep it so that other people can enjoy it 100 years from now. The way these cars were built, if you don't break something, they will last forever.